sun was setting over the alien colony, painting the dusty streets in shades of red and gold. The air smelled of smoke and old metal, a reminder of how broken this world had become. People moved quickly through the markets, carrying bags of food and water, rushing home before darkness. In the middle of the crowd walked a woman. She was not human. Her skin was pale green with faint lines like cracks, and her large dark eyes seemed tired, almost hollow. In her arms she carried a small baby wrapped in a faded cloth. The baby's soft cries rose and fell, weak but desperate. The sound followed her wherever she went, making her chest tighten with guilt and fear. The alien mother held her child close. She whispered soft words in her language, words of comfort that were more for her own heart than for the child. She wanted to believe everything would be fine, but deep down she knew it would not be easy. Her baby was hungry. He had been hungry for too many days. His small body was thin, his breaths uneven. She had to find food no matter what. In her hand she carried a small pouch of coins. She had counted them again and again, as if by counting the number might change. But it never did. There were only a few coins, too few for what she needed. Still, she refused to give up. A mother could not give up, not when her child's life was at stake. She walked into the market street, her eyes searching. Shops lined both sides, their shelves filled with bottles, breads, fruits, and packets of formula. The smell of roasted food reached her nose, and her baby stirred in her arms, his tiny fingers stretching out as if reaching for the smell. The mother's heart broke. She stopped in front of a small shop with a flickering sign. The windows were dirty, but inside she could see the shelves stacked with formula bottles. Her hope flickered like the sign itself. Maybe, just maybe, the coins would be enough. She stepped inside. The shop was dim, the air heavy with the scent of food and dust. A tall alien stood behind the counter, his face sharp and unfriendly. He looked at her, then at the baby, and frowned. The mother lowered her eyes, embarrassed by her torn clothes and tired face. She carefully placed her coins on the counter, her hands trembling. "Please," she whispered softly. "One bottle of formula, for my baby." The shopkeeper picked up the coins and counted them slowly. His long fingers clinked the metal pieces one by one. Then he looked at her with cold eyes. "This is not enough," the mother's breath caught. Her hope crumbled. "Please," she said again, her voice breaking. "It is all I have. My baby is hungry. Take this, I will pay the rest later." The shopkeeper's lips curled into a sneer. "No credit," he said sharply. "Rules are rules." He pushed the coins back toward her and turned away to serve another customer. The mother stood frozen. The baby cried louder now, his tiny body shaking with hunger. She pressed him against her chest, tears burning in her eyes. She wanted to scream, to beg louder, to fall to her knees. But the shopkeeper had already ignored her, his back turned. The other customers glanced at her for a moment, then looked away. Nobody wanted to be involved. Nobody cared. In this colony, survival came first, kindness second, if it came at all. Her coins lay on the counter like useless scraps of metal. Her hands shook as she picked them up again, closing her fingers tight around them. They felt heavy, heavier than stones because they carried all her failure. She stepped outside, the cold air hitting her face. The streets were still crowded, but to her everything felt empty. She moved slowly, her eyes fixed on the ground, her baby's cries echoing in her ears. For a moment, she thought about giving up. The thought came like a shadow, dark, heavy, dangerous. What if she could not feed him? What if he did not survive? Her body trembled. She shook her head quickly, pushing the thought away. No, she could not allow it. She would not. The mother kept walking, though she did not know where to go. Each step felt heavier than the last. She looked at her baby, whose eyes were half closed from exhaustion, and whispered, "Stay with me. Please, stay with me." The sun had now fallen lower, and the colony lights began to flicker on. Long shadows stretched across the streets. Somewhere far behind her, laughter echoed from a group of merchants closing their shops. Life went on for everyone else. But for her, time felt like it was running out. She reached a corner and stopped. She leaned against a wall, holding her baby close, trying to hide her tears. She had no more strength, no more plans. She had tried everything, and still, she had nothing. As she stood there alone and hopeless, her coins clutched in her hand, she did not notice someone watching from a distance. A pair of human eyes had seen her struggle. But she did not know it yet. For now all she knew was the endless hunger of her child, and the silence of a world that did not care. The alien mother stood at the corner of the street, her back pressed against a cracked wall. The colony lights flickered weakly, fighting against the growing darkness. She held her baby close, trying to calm him with soft whispers, but his cries refused to stop. His tiny hands clawed at the cloth, his thin body shaking with need. Her coins still lay in her palm. She stared at them, the cold metal biting into her skin. They felt worthless now. She wanted to throw them away, but she didn't. They were all she had left, even if they could not save her child. The crowd in the street moved around her, busy with their lives. No one stopped. No one cared. Some gave her a quick glance, then looked away as if her pain was too heavy to see. Others walked faster, avoiding her completely, but one pair of eyes did not turn away. A man stood a few steps away, watching quietly. He was human, taller than most of the aliens around him, his skin pale under the dim lights. His clothes were dusty from travel, a long coat hanging around his shoulders. His face was calm, but his eyes carried something unusual. Concern. He had been walking through the market searching for supplies before leaving the colony. But when he noticed the alien mother in the shop, begging and being refused, he had paused. He had seen the way the shopkeeper turned his back on her. He had seen the way the crowd ignored her. And now, as she stood alone clutching her baby, he felt something stir inside him. The man took a slow step forward. Then another. The mother noticed him only when he stopped in front of her. She looked up, startled. Her first instinct was fear. Humans were rare in this colony, and stories about them were not always kind. She tightened her grip on her baby and lowered her eyes. I have nothing for you," she whispered quickly, her voice shaking. The man frowned gently. "I don't want anything," he said in a steady, calm voice. "I saw you in the shop. You needed formula." The mother's throat tightened. She nodded weakly but said nothing. Pride and shame battled inside her. She did not want to beg again, not from him, not from anyone. The man studied her for a moment. He saw the coins in her hand, the trembling fingers, the hungry child. Then he sighed softly. "Wait here," he said. Before she could respond, he turned and walked back toward the shop. The mother blinked, confused. She shifted on her feet, unsure whether to follow or to run away. But her body was too weak, her hope too broken. She stayed. Inside the shop, the man placed a few credits on the counter. The shopkeeper's eyes widened at the human's money. Clean, valuable, and far more than the alien woman could ever afford. The man pointed at the formula bottles. "2," he said firmly. The shopkeeper hesitated for only a moment before handing over the bottles. Profit mattered more than pride. He pushed them across the counter. The man picked them up without another word and walked out. The alien mother gasped when she saw the bottles in his hands. Her baby cried louder, as if he could sense what was coming. She shook her head in disbelief. No, I cannot take this. I cannot repay you." The man held the bottles toward her. "It's not about payment. Your baby needs this. Take it." Her hands trembled as she reached out. She hesitated, afraid this was a trick, afraid of owing a debt she could never return. But when she looked at her child, she knew she had no choice. She took the bottles carefully, as if they were treasures of gold. Tears filled her large, dark eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help me?" The man looked at her baby. The child had stopped crying for a moment, staring at him with tired, watery eyes. "Because no one else did," he said quietly. "And because he deserves a chance." The mother could not speak. Her throat was tight with emotion. She hugged the bottles to her chest, then pulled one out quickly and began preparing it with shaking hands. The man watched as she fed the baby, who latched on desperately, drinking with weak but eager gulps. The cries faded into soft sounds of relief. The mother exhaled a long breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her baby's small body finally relaxed, eyes fluttering with comfort. She kissed his forehead, tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time in many days, she felt hope. She looked back at the man. Her voice broke as she said, "Thank you. You saved him." The man gave a small nod, but his eyes stayed serious. "This world is cruel," he said. "But sometimes, kindness is the only thing that keeps it from breaking completely." The mother wanted to say more, to tell him how much this meant, but words failed her. She could only hold her baby tighter and look at the human with a mixture of fear, respect, and gratitude. In the busy market around them, no one else noticed. No one else cared. But in that small corner of the colony, a simple act of kindness had changed everything. The alien mother did not know it yet, but this meeting would not be the end. It was only the beginning. The market was still alive with noise, but for the alien mother, the world had grown quiet. Her baby's cries had faded into soft gulps as he drank from the bottle. His tiny hands clutched at the cloth, his tired eyes finally closing in relief. The sound of his drinking was the sweetest sound she had ever heard. The mother sat on a broken stone bench near the corner, holding her child with one arm and the bottle with the other. Tears still ran down her cheeks, but now they were mixed with gratitude. For days she had felt only despair. Now, because of a stranger, her baby was safe, at least for tonight. The human man stood nearby, his long coat brushing against the ground as he leaned against a wall. He didn't look for thanks. He simply watched, his eyes calm, his posture relaxed but alert. He had seen hunger before, too many times in too many places. But this moment reminded him why he still believed in helping, even when the galaxy felt cold. When the baby finally stopped drinking and fell asleep, the mother carefully wrapped him again. She looked up at the man. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "I owe you everything. Without you, She could not finish. Her voice broke, and she pressed her face against her child's head. The man shook his head. "You owe me nothing. Feed him, keep him safe. That is enough." The mother hesitated. She wanted to believe his words, but kindness like his was rare. In her world, nothing was free. She looked down, her fingers tightening around the empty bottle. "Still, you helped when no one else would. Why?" The man sighed, his eyes drifting across the street. "Because I remember what it feels like," he said quietly. "I was a child once, hungry, helpless. Someone helped me. If they hadn't—" He stopped, shaking his head. "Let's just say I don't forget." The mother stared at him, surprised. She had heard many things about humans, most of them cold, selfish, dangerous. But this man was different. His words carried weight, like they came from real pain. Silence stretched between them for a moment, broken only by the baby's soft breaths. Then the man spoke again. "Where do you live?" The mother stiffened. Her instinct was to stay silent. She did not trust easily. Too many people had taken advantage of her already. But when she looked at the bottles he had bought, and at her sleeping child, she felt something shift inside her. This human had already given her more than anyone else had. "A small shelter," she said softly. "Not far from here. It is not much, but it is all I have." The man nodded. "Then let me walk with you. It's not safe out here after dark." At first she wanted to refuse. Pride told her to walk alone, to not depend on anyone. But another voice, quieter but stronger, reminded her, her child. Safety mattered more than pride. She gave a small nod. They walked together through the streets. The crowd was thinner now, and shadows stretched long across the ground. The mother kept her baby close, and the man walked a step behind, watchful. A pair of drunken miners stumbled past, muttering curses, but when they saw the human's sharp gaze, they quickly moved away. Finally, they reached a narrow alley. At the end stood a small metal door, rusted and weak. The mother pushed it open with her shoulder and stepped inside. The room was dark and cold, with cracked walls and a broken lamp in the corner. A thin blanket lay on the floor, and a small tin pot sat on a crate. That was all. The human stepped inside, looking around silently. He didn't speak of pity or judgment. He simply looked at the hard truth of her life. The mother laid her baby down gently on the blanket, covering him with the cloth. For the first time in many nights, the child slept peacefully. The man placed the second bottle of formula on the crate. "For tomorrow," he said. The mother's eyes filled again. "You have already done so much." "I cannot—" "You can," he interrupted softly. "And you will. He needs you strong. He needs you alive." The words hit her like a promise, a reminder of her duty. She nodded, pressing her hands together. Thank you, truly. If there is ever a way I can repay, the man raised a hand. Just remember this moment. Someday someone else will need help. If you can give it, that will be repayment enough. The mother's chest tightened. She nodded again, this time firmly. She understood. For a while they sat in silence. The baby breathed softly, the only sound in the room. The man leaned against the wall, his eyes thoughtful. The mother held her child, her heart finally steady. She didn't know why fate had sent this human into her path. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in a long time, she believed tomorrow could still exist. Outside, the colony grew darker, the streets more dangerous. But inside the small shelter there was a spark of hope. A mother, her child, and a human stranger, brought together by hunger, bound by an act of kindness. And though none of them knew it yet, this single act would ripple far beyond one night, far beyond one family. Because sometimes help was more than just survival. Sometimes help was the beginning of something greater. The small shelter was quiet, lit only by the weak glow of the broken lamp in the corner. The baby lay asleep, his chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm, the empty bottle beside him. For the alien mother, it felt like a miracle. She had spent so many nights listening to her child cry, powerless to help. Now, for the first time, there was silence. Gentle, safe silence. She sat near her baby, her hands resting in her lap, her eyes still wet. Across from her, the human man leaned against the wall, his arms folded. He looked calm, but his eyes never stopped moving, scanning the room as if protecting it from invisible threats. The mother finally broke the silence. "I still don't understand you," she whispered. "You could have walked past me like everyone else. Why stop? Why help me?" The man's gaze softened. He shifted his coat, sitting down on the cold floor across from her. "Because I know what it means to be ignored," he said. "To cry for help and have no one answer. I swore I wouldn't let that happen to someone else, not if I could stop it." The mother studied him carefully. His words were simple, but they carried weight. His face had lines of weariness, scars of a life not easy. She realized then he was not just helping her. He was fighting against the ghosts of his own past. For a moment neither spoke. The silence was not heavy now. It was calm, almost comforting. The mother looked down at her child and smiled faintly. "He has no father," she admitted softly. "The war took him, took almost everything." Her voice shook, but she forced herself to continue. "Since then I've been alone. Every day is a fight. Sometimes I thought, maybe it would be better if I—" She stopped, choking on the words. The man leaned forward slightly. "But you didn't give up," he said firmly. "You kept walking. You kept fighting for him. That makes you stronger than you think." Her large eyes shimmered, meeting his. No one had ever said those words to her before. To most, she was just another poor alien mother, forgotten and unseen. But to this human she was more. She felt something stir in her chest, something she had not felt in a long time. Respect. Trust. She wanted to ask his name, but before she could, the baby stirred, letting out a soft cry. The mother quickly picked him up, rocking him gently. The human reached out his hand, almost without thinking, and the baby's small fingers curled around his. The sight made the mother freeze. Her instinct was to pull the child back, to protect him. But when she saw the man's expression, gentle, almost amazed, her fear melted. Her baby cooed softly, gripping the stranger's finger like he had already chosen to trust him. The mother smiled faintly, whispering, "He likes you." The man gave a small smile in return. Children know more than we do. They see hearts more clearly. For the next hour they sat together in the dim shelter. She told him about her life before the war, about the village she had once called home, about the garden her husband had planted that no longer existed. Her voice was quiet but steady, and the human listened without interruption. When she faltered, he filled the silence with pieces of his own story, fragments of battles fought, friends lost in the long road that had led him here. He spoke little, but enough to show her that pain was not only hers to carry. By the time she placed her baby back down to sleep, the room felt warmer. The fear that had lived inside her chest for so long had softened. She looked at the man and realized something had changed. He was no longer a stranger. "You saved us," she whispered. "Not just with food, You gave me back hope." The human's eyes met hers, steady and clear. "Then we saved each other," he replied. Outside, the colony streets grew more dangerous with the night. Shadows moved, and whispers of thieves and soldiers filled the air. But inside the small shelter, there was a bond forming, a fragile but powerful connection between a poor alien mother and a lone human traveler. Neither knew what the next day would bring. But for now, in the middle of a broken world, they had found something rare: trust. And that trust was the beginning of something greater than either of them could yet imagine.